Welcome, Canadians from across the country. Welcome to another edition of C3RF's In Hot video series. Today we're rolling in on the peculiar case of Dr. Mary O'Connor. Mary has been a long-standing family practitioner. She got her medical degree in 1971. She began her medical practice in 1975, so she's been hard at it for, 47 years now? With nary a strike against her professional name. She's always been a superb addition to the medical profession, but now she finds herself without a license to practice, and this has all come about because of her refusal to pass along what she considered private doctor-patient information in the form of vaccination status and exemptions for vaccinations. And Mary, thanks so much for joining us today. I guess we'll kick that off. Did I get that right, that you were being sanctioned because you refused to discuss your patient's vaccination exemption paperwork and status? Is that true?
Yes, yeah. So first of all, thank you, Mr. Russ, for having me on this program. Yeah, so when the college realized I was writing exemptions, they asked me for the names of the patients I'd written them for and the handle of their chart so they could be examined. So I refused to do that. And so because both had involved patients' right to choose their treatment and patients' private information. So the college then has come after me and took me to Ontario Superior Court, took away my license before that in December 28th. We went to court in January 7th.
My God.
And I was found guilty.
Now, I really can't see the crime in all of this because as far as, I'm not a doctor, but as far as I am aware, the medical profession operates under Hippocratic Oath, do no harm to your patients. And part of that harm would be the improper disclosure of information that's private to them and about their medical status, because your medical status, if it gets out, starts roaming around in the ether space, that could be very damaging to an individual. So that is kind of I thought, a sacrosanct responsibility of a medical professional like yourself not to disclose that information. Now, I guess in this case, the people that took you to task, the bureaucracy that took you to task, was the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario. Okay. Now, normally, I think what happens, I'm going to do a share screen here, Mary. Hang on for a sec. Let's take a look at this. Is the CPSO webpage, and this is their mission statement. They say this is what we do, and I highlighted this part here where they talk about what they do is they work in a proactive basis to contribute to the improved quality of care of patient safety and will result in significant benefits to patients. So this all tells me that their prime objective should be the patient. And now we can all see that a college like this needs to be in place to step in if there's malpractice ongoing. And I think part of their terms of reference also indicate that they kick into action when they get complaints. I would think complaints from patients. Was this the case? Did you have a complaint from a patient that got them interested in your case?
No, I mean, the people that came to me, and many people came to get exemptions, and they were all aware of the situation. They knew the facts. They're mostly being coerced into using masks or taking vaccines. So none of these people complained. They came for help, which is what I was.
Who complained then? Who issued these complaints?
What I think it may have been from some employers who questioned the ability.
The patients didn't initiate these complaints against you. It appears that these were employers that were initiating complaints about your writing.
I think that more it was the employers questioning the validity of the exemptions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the employers are a bit confused about the exemptions as well.
Right.
Okay. Now, I understand that when it came to exemptions, there's an aspect of the exemptions that really confused me. and they seem to. It seems that you could only offer an exemption if a person had already had an initial injection of a COVID-19 vaccine. Is that true, that you had to have?
That's what eventually happened. At the beginning, I was writing exemptions, which just detailed people's personal histories, health problems, etc., which would make them, make them exempt from receiving any kind of medication that might have adverse effects. And
Yes.
some of those exemptions were accepted at the beginning, but then when the laws tightened up and you could only give a valid exemption for having had a previous shot and a reaction to that shot, then it got difficult, and very few exemptions were accepted after that.
To me, as a layman, that seems incredible that you would have to actually prove by becoming physically ill by virtue of getting the injection before you could then claim an exemption. Is that the way things normally work with?
Never ever worked like that.
Aren't you putting the patient in danger when you test, you do a trial and test to see if they are in fact allergic to the vaccine? Isn't that?
Yeah, no, it's not normal at all.
Did the college give you any explanation as to why that rule was put in place, or Public Health Canada, or anybody? Did they explain why that was the rule?
No, they just put out the rule and said these are the only positive ways you can get an exemption.
I find that just baffling. I'm also wondering about when you look at immunity. There is a lot of case study out there, authoritative research that says that a person who has already contracted COVID-19 is more effectively immunized against getting COVID-19 again than a person who's been vaccinated.
So that's true. And I had people who had COVID and had positive immunity, and were still being told to get a vaccine by the authorities. Yeah.
So that was not a cause for exemption either. That would not swing with the college.
No.
Okay. So what happens is the college, on the basis of these rules, they take you to Ontario Superior Court, and I'm going to cut away here and just show you the court decision up here. Here it is. This is out of a Owen Sound magazine called The Hub, I guess, and they printed out the Superior Court decision. Now, this is an odd case because you had a lawyer dedicated to your services, and there were three other respondents in the case. They had lawyers, and I take it from the decision that the main thrust of your arguments, all four of you, because they bundled you together in one court case, was to go the constitutional route and argue that your patients and your office and your profession as a professional, you had charter rights, constitutional rights that protected the sharing of this information in the manner that they wanted to see you shared. But I guess the lead lawyer on that attack was going to be Rocco Galati. He's a extremely famous.
Well, Rocco wasn't for me. Was not my lawyer. No, he was for the other one, and I was the only one in court that day in the end.
That's right. That's right. So my understanding from reading the decision was the fact that Rocco Galati was going to lead the defense for all of you on a constitutional charter basis. He was sick.
Never for me. Michael Swinwood was always my lawyer. Yeah.
But Rocco was sick. That constitutional argument fell away. You guys, all of the lawyers requested an adjournment so that you could regather your forces, maybe see Rocco Galati get better so he could appear in court. And the initial judge said, no way, we're not going to consider that at all, because we're on tight timelines, and so off you go. So that was the context in which you, with your lawyer alone, stood in Ontario Superior Court, because the other respondents to the case either didn't appear or lost their lawyer, or their lawyers were sick in the hospital. So on that basis, basically you're kind of thrust into the light there without the defense you wanted to have. And then when the judge looked at what
I'll just say that I had the defense that
you wanted.
I had the defense that I was always going to have. I had my defense there with me.
Okay,
There's no change in that. Yeah.
understand. Okay, and then we talk about the case result itself. We go to this portion down here, and it says that the regulations that they were ordering you to, under which they were ordering you to give up documents, private documents of your patients, was covered under the Regulated Health Professions Act. And this caught my eye here. It says that when they make a call for these documents, what this whole thing is intended to do is to allow them to see whether or not a doctor is operating inappropriately. Either there's malpractice or incompetence involved. And that's, the judge admitted in this case that there was no malpractice, so there was no incompetence, but the judge still ruled that the college had a right to the documents that you're holding back from them.
Mhm.
So did you see that as kind of a step away from what the intent of the law was? How did you feel about that side of the decision?
Well, I just knew it was wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
these are my patients. These are their treatment that they requested, and these are their charges.
Yeah.
That they wanted it kept private.
So at the end of the day, the judge ruled against you, and now you say there's an appeal in the offing. You're going to take it forward for appeal.
Yeah.
Okay, now there's
pending.
a step there between losing this case and giving up those documents and having your license revoked or removed. What prompted the license to be withdrawn for your medical practice?
Yeah, I think it was removed on December 23rd. So I think leading up to that, they had told me to write no more exemptions. They told me November 4th. I didn't actually learn that till November 24th. So in the meantime, I did have a private investigator asking for an exemption, which I granted.
Okay.
After I learned the rules, then I stopped writing exemptions. But they still went ahead and took away my license as being a threat. I was a threat to my patients and society at large for.
Okay. So your license was removed because you were in that nether period there between the ruling and waiting for decisions and whatnot. And you did write an exemption, I guess, after the initial judge's ruling. And you say there was
not after the judge's ruling. Okay. After the letter, in between the time that I learned about the college forbidding me to write more, and by the time I received their letter, I didn't write anything after November. Yeah.
But on that basis, they saw that as you were being recalcitrant, you were being obnoxious, you were being obstructive because you wrote those exemptions in that in-between period. Mm-hmm. And that gave them just cause to take away your livelihood.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure why. What happened.
Okay. No, it seems like it's a pretty odd thing. The thing that caught my attention as well is you say that you had an investigator. It sounds like they misrepresented themselves as a patient,
right,
to get you to give them an exemption.
Right.
But could that be seen as entrapment? I don't know. How do you feel?
I think that's not a legal thing to do.
I think that's probably something that bears further looking into, maybe during the course of your appeal. I don't know. Right. But that is just amazing. I want to share screen here and get your impressions on this next missive from the Canadian or the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario. This is a letter that they wrote. It's a statement on public health misinformation. I just want to get your impressions on it because I got the underlying part here. And basically they're saying that physicians, okay, they hold a unique position of trust, and it's their responsibility basically not to speak out against any public health policies that are anti-vaccine, anti-masking, anti-distance, anti-lockdown. You can't say anything about those things because I guess public health decrees, and physicians who put the public at risk may face an investigation, which is what happened to you.
Mhm.
And when offering opinions, physicians must be guided by the law, regulatory standards, the code of ethics. Now, and this last part here just really gets me. The information shared must not be misleading or deceptive and must be supported by available evidence and science. Now, was there any evidence or science that was ever presented to you that showed you the error of your ways in what you were telling your patients, or that you know that you were outside of out of bounds with? Was there any
No,
evidence?
I mean, anything I've read have never shown me any evidence that any of my beliefs were wrong. The patients that came to me had done serious studying of all these matters. They knew all the facts. And
Okay.
they did not want to participate.
So it seems to me that you know, we have this situation here where we have a bureaucracy that is has determined, given its evidence that I quite frankly don't see, and obviously you didn't see either, given evidence that a one-size-fits-all approach to vaccines, to giving exemptions, to is the order of the day, and that you can't speak out against that, and you can't have a different opinion, and if you do, well, then maybe you shouldn't be a doctor in Ontario. That's the gist of what I get from their statement. Okay. This is problematic because you know, cases like yours, and you're not the only one. There were 3 other doctors involved with you. There are doctors across the country, not too many of them, who are speaking out. I think of one doctor out in British Columbia, Alberta, Dr. Agassi, that spoke out and actually prescribed ivermectin for one of his patients, who, by the way, improved and didn't die. And he's taken to task. I'm not sure whether he lost his license or not either, but he spoke out against the orthodox one-size-fits-all approach to medicine. Now, this one-size-fits-all, it seems to be coming from, and I've seen the CPSO mention the World Health Organization and its recommendation as kind of the gold standard, the gold bar that you cannot go against. And I think this is apparently what you did. But it seems to me that we have a case where our medical systems are being overridden or are being directed by offshore entities, World Health Organizations, maybe Chinese experience or Chinese precedent that's been set. I've also seen the college remark on that as their evidence. But this we end up with a situation here where we, when you talk about public trust in a medical organization, we can't help but see that public trust is going to be adversely impacted by these kinds of orthodox one-size-fits-all solutions. And I don't know. I always thought a doctor was supposed to deal with a patient on a patient-by-patient basis, and I guess you obviously feel that way, and you've actually put yourself out there in doing so, and have been punished for doing that.
I'm just going to say too, you know, when some of my patients began to have the shot, many of them did, I started to see the adverse reactions right away. Within 3 hours, heart pain, weakness, lasted for 6 weeks. 12-year-old child in hospital with told myocarditis. I saw 3 of my patients had little mini strokes. One ended up with very confused speech, paranoia, and facial spasms. So this happened right at the beginning, starting to see these side effects.
Did you write up those side effects and deposit them in a database of sorts?
I haven't. The patients themselves were encouraged to report. Some patients did try to report to public health, but it wasn't accepted. Their report wasn't accepted. People were dying. I had one patient who he had the myocarditis, well, I presume it was myocarditis. His relatives, 56, perfect health, found dead in bed after a Pfizer shot. So, I mean, I was just hearing constant story. Every patient that called me to ask for an exemption all had stories of someone they knew had been injured or died.
That really tweaks my interest. You say that submissions were made to adverse event database, but they weren't accepted. How could that be? What
In
was
some cases, but I mean, certainly my man with, I'm sure with the myocarditis, certainly some heart thing that made him ill for 6 weeks. Public health ignored it and told him to go ahead and get a second vaccine.
okay? That is absolutely incredible, and it seems to go against every professional oath that a doctor takes to actually put his patient in jeopardy, knowing that there's a suspicion that that what is happening is related to what he is about to undergo for a second time. That is absolutely incredible. So that kind of tells me that, you know, we see data coming out of public health. You know, they publish adverse event data, and but that tells me that that data looks like it can't be trusted if they're turning away reports. Then obviously the data is flawed and can't be trusted. And here again, we have this whole aspect of public trust coming under question.
So I myself didn't submit any reports because at that point the patients were able to do it, and a lot of them chose not to do it.
Okay, my goodness. Okay, so when is your appeal going forward, Mary?
I have no idea yet of any timeline. I don't know.
I don't know. It strikes me as rather ironic that they're in such a rush to get you to not give you an adjournment to get you know, your fellow respondents' cases together. They're in a big rush to make that happen, but they always seem to be slow dragging the process when it comes to things like constitutional arguments and charter arguments. I've noted that over the past couple of years. So are you going back into medicine? I mean, if this thing all clears up and you get your license back, are you?
No, I would never go back to the college. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do. As I say, I'm still speaking to patients, you know, just as friends, and seeing patients as well in their houses and what. But no, I'm not sure yet what my next step will be.
No, I certainly can't blame you. Do you know, say, other doctors who are, you know, still in the system? How are they? Is there an evolving feeling amongst them about staying or going, or what do you? Is there a trend that you see developing at all?
I think the people who most of them I think are being investigated. Some are still not being investigated, but they really want to stay and help their patients if they can.
Yeah.
Because one of the things we've learned, this cut off a whole medical, all of a sudden your patients are abandoned with no treatment, and what, a single 24-hour period, right?
And it seems like that's starting to show up in hospitals. We're starting to see. There's a story just yesterday where the Children's Health Hospital in Ottawa, CHEO, for the first time, they were unable to have enough beds for the children that were coming in to receive treatment. They're they're blaming it on staff shortages. Across the country, we're seeing medical systems short of staff. So it seems like it's not a problem that's going away. It seems to be getting bigger and bigger. Now, as to why that's happening. A lot of the people
that I wrote exemptions for were nurses, so certainly a lot of nurses were not able to go back to work.
There you go. Okay. Yeah. So that maybe that's part of the problem, you know. And I can also see where for 2+ years we've kind of, the medical system has put all these other procedures on the back burner. You know, cancer screening, cancer treatments, non-elective surgeries have all been put on the back burner, and now there's such a backlog that is going to clog up the system as well. So we really put ourselves in a situation with our approach to this pandemic. With I think it could be argued that we've actually made it much more worse than it had to be.
Yeah,
it is for you, having lost your vocation and ability to earn your living. It hasn't turned out that good for you. But I tell you what, Mary, there's people across the nation, and I'm in touch with a lot of them, and we have nothing but respect for your principles, for your willingness to suffer for your patients, to do the right thing by your patients, and take the punishment as a result. You should certainly, if anything, you should be venerated and not punished.
Thank you very, very much. There's lots of doctors that are really done way, way more, are really trying hard to look after the patients.
Yeah,
You.
this is kind of a sad state of affairs that I don't know. Unfortunately, seems to be for whatever reason we've taken oaths of service and crushed them with these centralized, all one size fits all approaches. I guess the biggest one of them all is this mass vaccination program. I think when you have a mass vaccination program, you better be sure that it's a great vaccine, because you're hitting all areas of the population: young, old, sick, healthy. You're hitting them all, and to do that with an experimental vaccine. This is still experimental in Canada. It's still under interim order. To do that with an experimental vaccine seems to be beyond the pale. I just can't understand how anybody responsible for public health would want to do that. But that seems to be what we're bent on doing.
Yeah, I think my patients who did get the vaccine, they didn't realize it was experimental, and I spoke to them afterwards.
No.
They weren't informed of the risks. Or
No.
Yeah.
I know I've spoken to doctors who didn't realize that these vaccines were unapproved, were experimental. I was surprised, but I think that's the way it was sold. It was sold as the gold standard, as the be all that ends all, and it was going to fix COVID-19, and it doesn't seem to have done that at all.
I might just mention the other thing that really disturbed me during this was the long-term care. And my husband had been in long-term care. He'd had dementia for 11 years. So he's in long-term care, but died just before COVID, in November before COVID. But what happened in long-term care, cutting out the patients, the families of patients, was a horrific thing that happened to these people. Because I know in the days when my husband was there, I went every day, 2 or 3 times a day, to feed him, etc. There's no way the PSWs could do all the care that the families did.
That is an absolute shame. And there are cases on the record where people have actually asked for assisted death, so that they wouldn't have to survive in a facility where they couldn't see or be with anybody. That's absolutely sad.
Yeah.
So I think
really very, very terrible thing that happened to our elderly.
Any last words for our audience, Mary, you'd like to leave with us before we go? I know we're getting on here in our time, but anything in closing, Mary?
No, I just hope the rest of my medical colleagues will begin to see the truth and recognize their complicity if they don't recognize and speak the truth. It's a hard situation for these people.
That's a very good point, and it goes beyond just the medical profession. It extends to all professions that are charged with serving the public, our police, or judiciary, or politicians, everyone who's responsible for public security and safety. You have to be, are you on the right side of this? Because as things are unfolding, it looks like more and more people are taking this to court, and it looks like there's going to be more and more liability that's going to be pressed upon the people who are complicit with all of these tactics. Mary, it's been a real pleasure to have you with us today. Once again, I really appreciate your professionalism, your principles, your bravery, your courage, and I'm wishing you, and we're all wishing you, the best in your appeals. And we hope you knock that one out of the park.
Thank you very, very much for your help.
Okay. Bye, Mary.
Bye-bye.